Welcome everyone, this is Denny with my YouTube channel, Why Is This True? And today Lance Rayborn from Texas is going to join me. And Lance is another fellow, interesting fellow who found GetWisdom, has a unique story like so many of the people that I've interviewed recently do. And so he's going to share that with us. So thank you, Lance, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And thank you for having me.
All right.
This is great.
So tell us the story about how you found GetWisdom and what happened.
Oh, gosh. So, yeah, I guess the best place to start is probably like the pandemic. I think that's when things started to really change for me. I came into a lot of spiritual circles and, Gaia TV and all these things. And then I started to watch new things on like health and wellness, and people were saying things about the vaccine and other things that I was just like, this seems strange. But I want to, I'm a scientist at heart. That's my previous background, and I want to know everything and try to get to the bottom of things myself. So I started watching random interviews with alternative journalists, and I found this one that was linked to Reddit, and I just followed the comments. I just kept going in the comments, clicking deeper. And it wasn't until it was way embedded at the bottom and someone was like, this content's at GetWisdom, find the truth, or something like that.
Huh.
And I was like, ooh, okay. And I don't remember who it was, what it was, but it was over 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I clicked it and went to GetWisdom, and my whole world just turned upside down because at this point, I was coming out of being a government scientist in climate change and climate change research and some other things. And one of the first videos I clicked on GetWisdom was about climate change. And I was just like, I can't accept this. This is crazy. There's no way that what they're saying about climate change goes against all of my studies I've ever learned my entire life. And so I kind of put it aside. I was like, this isn't for me. This is crazy. And, more spiritual development happened. I was like meditating all the time, trying to get better. And, I came back to the website. Something pulled me back in. And it was just like, I think the animal videos was what got me, finding out that they have souls and that they're here to heal humans. And I was like, that makes sense because of my family. Like, we've had dogs, and I think they've helped my family and all this stuff. So, it was really tough coming on board. But, yeah, I found it through Reddit, and then I found all these videos.
I think you're the only person I've ever heard of who found GetWisdom through Reddit.
I mean, I've never seen anything on there since going back on there, because I go through those comments still, and I'm like, now I'm going to go back and start to post myself. I really still haven't done that, but... Reddit was the way, interestingly.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So climate change and animals.
Climate change and animals, that's kind of what got me, because I think I've been here as a steward of the earth, and I wanted to help Earth. Like, I was like, screw humanity, they're so messed up. I don't care about them. I want to help the Earth and get people good food. Like, food is another way to sustainability, and so I was going to take my background and my interest in farming and go that route. And I started to explore more of the content. At this time, it was a blessing that I was unemployed and I had all this time to research through the GetWisdom content and other stuff. And I finally it hit me in one of the videos. I think it was like the second or third climate change video. I just started bawling. Like, I was watching it and I started bawling because I was like, this is true. And I have to accept this. Like, there's something in me that just knows this is true. And, I say I went through the dark night of the soul where everything just felt like so dark and so dismal. Like, I cannot believe everything in my whole entire life is totally upside down. So it was a really tough time for me. And I tried to rationalize my way out of it. And there was no way to do that because I kept coming back. Like, there was so much about this content that was so eye-opening. And it was helping me too. Like, the videos on meditation and how it doesn't really do much for you if it's not applied appropriately. And that's what was happening for me. I was spending all this time in a void, not doing anything with my life. And so that started to change my perspective. And then what really totally was the icing on the cake was getting an LHP. I was like, if all this content is true, it's tickling my science and intellectual fancy, but if what they say is true, let me get the healing. Let me actually get the LHP work and see if this is going to do something. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I ordered an LHP through the system, and you were the one who contacted me right away. And this was, 2 years ago from, July 30th, July 31st. So this is like our 2-year anniversary.
Wow.
And that day we had our interview, and it was great about my issues. And so I went to bed that night feeling like, okay, this is going to be great. I'm getting healing. Let's see how this works. And the next morning I woke up and I could barely get out of bed. I just felt pretty dense and pretty heavy, and my whole back and along my chakras and my spine was just so sore. But it was a weird soreness I had never felt before. It wasn't super limiting. It was just there's something going on in my body, and I've never felt this before. And this seems strange. Did he already do the healing already? This was just the next day. And then 2 hours later, you email me saying, hey, I did the LHP this morning. And that's when I was like, oh, okay. So it was the LHP. There's something going on here. And I think I emailed you my issues, and you were like, just pray, do the prayers. The prayers will help you. And so I did the prayers, and I went and looked at my notes recently to prep for this a little bit, and I saw in my notes that it was I can't believe I just have to pray this away. What? This is all I get?
I need surgery.
Yeah, right. And so, but I prayed it away, and that next night I slept like a baby. I had lifelong insomnia. I had mental fog. I had depression issues, drug abuse issues. I was cleaning up my diet and doing these spiritual things, so I was getting better. But this one act just transformed my whole life because I knew something happened. And fast forward, I now know the act of that LHP was removing some of the dark spirits that were in my field, and the dark spirits were causing my insomnia. My whole life, I've taken drugs, pharmaceuticals. They led me to suicidal tendencies, so I'm a survivor of that. And so it was a cure for my insomnia right away.
Wow.
And then everything else kind of followed slowly as it started to do its magic over time. And so I also had implants from when I was young, and so that was a energy restriction in my body that caused the mind fog and some of the other things. So doing that LHP lifted that, and it restored the energy balance in my body, and so that's what I was feeling. And I was just very grateful and lucky to actually feel that, because I know that I would have continued in the content and down this path, but it might have taken a lot longer if I didn't feel it and know within me, this is something true. And so I'm really grateful for that. And the LHP that you did 2 years ago, I've told you this so many times. I'm so grateful for it. It's you're really pivotal in changing my whole life. Yeah. And where I am at.
Well, you know where the credit goes. Yeah.
Of course. Yes, of course.
I'm really happy to be part of it, but it's I sat down, I just did the LHP, kind of like the workman's attitude towards it really pays off. It's just it's not any more complicated than that. Just sit down, do the LHP, trust in God, trust in the divine realm, and then just get out of the way, because great, wonderful things will happen. And I'm so happy to happen in your case. Some people don't notice things right away. It's very gradual. But for others like yourself, there's no doubt. It's just it's kind of in your face. Yeah.
But I still did doubt, because if you remember, that month or two after the LHP, I sent you letters upon letters. They were pages long, and it was trying to rationalize all of my research background and being I think this point is right, but I think you should rechannel about this point, or I think this, and you were just just do the prayers. You'll be okay. You'll understand eventually. And yeah, the more, like I said, I was blessed to be unemployed, and so I remember you jokingly told me at one point on the phone, have you listened to this webinar and this and this and this? And I'm yeah, I've listened to almost all the webinars, and I'm halfway through all the channelings, and I've started listening to the radio shows. This is, I've done all this. And you're you need to get a life. You've done so much already. Do something else with your time. I was like, no, this is so fascinating. And I have to like, my science mind was like, I have to kind of disprove this or see how it can fit into my paradigm in a way. And I'm like, I finally got to the point where I was like, I have to let it go. I have to let it go. The LHP changed my life, and I'm waking up to so many different things. One of the things that also I think pulled me into this path was asking for signs. Like that webinar that asks says you can pray for signs. I was like, okay, if this is really true, I think I felt something in the healing, but let me actually pray for signs. Like, mind you, I was an atheist before this, so like I didn't have any belief. So it was a radical shift for me to go from that to this and start to pray for signs. But I was like, I'm going to do it. Like Carl and y'all just said, just try it, just do it and see what happens. And so I did it. The first day that I asked for a sign, I got a sign. Like I asked for feathers, and my friend had texted me a feather. And, it wasn't my direct sign, but day after day after day, feathers. And then I asked for birds. Birds came like crazy. I remember this one time, my mom running into my room, pulling me out, like opening the door when she's not supposed to. Yeah. She's supposed to knock. So I was like, oh my God, something is really going on. Like, this is really terrible. And I ran outside, and there was over 62 birds. I remember I counted, like lined up on the telephone pole line, right outside the house. And I was just like, I was speechless. Like we had never seen that before. Ever. Wow. They've lived there for years and had never seen that. And not to mention, like my 2 dogs died around that same time, that same year, within a few months of each other. So it was a really difficult time for me. And when I was drafting a message to send to some friends and family members, I just couldn't go through with it. And so I just kind of sat there, and I was like, please give me a sign. Like, I just be with me, help me be okay, Creator. And literally 2 birds landed outside my door, on the deck, and it was a cardinal and a blue jay right next to each other, and they squawked, and I just kind of had like the insight and the knowing, like these are the 2 dogs here to show that they're okay, you're okay, we're with you. And it was just a beautiful sign. And it's like you can't explain like the actual feeling you get when that happens.
And the story told to someone who's not exposed to this stuff just sounds silly. It's like it's like a 5-year-old talking about their toys or something. It's like But when you're in the driver's seat like that, and you're asking it, and you're getting response, and there's an exchange going on, it's like, okay, well, it is only for you. It's not proof of anything. It's just the message you asked for.
Yeah. Exactly. And, I could tell so many more. Like I was like, okay, let's get away from animals and nature. Let's get to some physical signs. And I asked for coins. And, I stopped meditating and doing yoga out in my backyard for some time, and I just had like the nudge to go do it. I hadn't done it. And so I walked out the path that I usually go down, and I saw a few coins, and I was like, oh, that's weird. How did they get here? Because it's way out in the backyard. There's no way coins could have got there. And then I kept going, and there was more, and I was like, I'm just going to let it go. Finished my session, and I came back up, and there was more coins, more than I thought I saw the first time. And then I had the insight to count them. So I counted them, and I picked them all up, and there was 11 coins. And 11 is my number. I was born on November 1st, 11/1, 11 shows up all the time. So it was just like, here you go. Do you need any more? Here you go. And it also linked with something else with a friend, too. So that's another, like, the divine works in so many synchronistic ways that it wasn't just for me. This was also for somebody else that I won't get into. Yeah. So it was beautiful. Signs. If you're questioning, if you're watching this and you're questioning, pray for signs. Like, just do it and see what happens. Yeah. Because things will come your way if you believe and you have faith.
Yeah, and it was interesting because you said you came from kind of an atheistic background, and even with really low belief quotient, that kind of thing could still work for a lot of people, just because they ask for it. That's all it. You don't really have to. The proof here is that you didn't have a really high belief quotient, but you still asked. So just the effort of asking shows there's some belief, and it could be infinitesimally small, but the divine realm will work with whatever it's given.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For sure. I think it's wonderful. Like, and I'm sure the LHP helps, of course, with that too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah. Pretty wonderful stuff.
So then what happened?
I don't know which path do we go. So much has happened. So I don't know. The next venture was probably hanging like bothering you and berating you, being like, I know I'm supposed to be a healer. Like, can I be employed by GetWisdom? Like, help me out, Denny. What can I do? And you're like, nah, we don't do that. It's not how, it's not happening. So, but do the LHP. You're free to, do this in your own work and charge people, make a website, all that. And I was like, okay, I don't see that really happening, but I'll see what I can do. And I was like, I'm gonna get into GetWisdom. Like, I know I belong here. Like, I can be a part of this somehow. So I doing the being a member and getting the transcripts is a really good value that you get, those written transcripts. And I was like, I'm really good at this. I was an English tutor and I can transcribe well. So let me see if I can be a volunteer. I have all this time. So I volunteered to do some transcripts with you and Karen Gore. Karen Gore mostly was the one I worked with, and it was such a nice connection and nice work. And I was able to do a few of those. And then, I just got so busy as my healing career kind of took off and things started to open up for me. So that was kind of like another kind of doorway into GetWisdom, I think.
So you became an LHP practitioner. When did?
Yeah. Okay. So sorry. Yeah. I'm fast forwarding over that. So yeah, you gave me that LHP July 31st, and I remember, I think it was the second week of August is when I bought the LHP program and became a student. So it only took a couple weeks to get the program, and I think it was even sooner than that actually. So yeah, and then I became a student, and I forgot about this. Yeah, I read that manual within days. Like, it was like 2.5 days. I could not put it down. And I was also like trying to see if I could find other information from other websites and other things, like trying to corroborate stuff, and wasn't really getting anywhere. So it's just like, I had to just trust this information, like, and in my body, like I know I have like an intuitive sense I never knew was there, but like you can feel it, like it resonates in your heart when you know something you're reading stands out and it seems to be true. And not like what you've been told. You're like, there's something that's like, ooh, you should look at this, look into this deeper. Yeah. And I had that so much throughout the GetWisdom content. So yeah, I totally skipped over that part. I became a student first. And then, I was doing LHPs every day, sometimes 2 a day. I really wanted to get this under my belt and get myself healed and really try to explore this new path. And LHP was the opening for that. Yeah.
Okay. And then?
So then the volunteer stuff happened. And then I think what happened was I learned more about GetWisdom content and how much HMR, holographic memory resolution, was a powerful healing tool. And so I was like, if I'm going to be a healer, then I need to go and take this training. So I went online and took that training through Brent Baum. And, I did that within a couple months. And I had notified you that, I did this training and I thought it was really great. And I'm excited to keep going with this. And you're like, great, good for you, kind of thing. And then just fast forward a few months more, I think this was early 2021, you had just messaged me out of the blue being like, I have an idea, call me back. And I was like, oh, what is this going to be? And you're like, well, we have this thing called deep subconscious channeling and holographic memory resolution, and I think it'd be great if, we could do trades together. So I don't exactly remember how that was initiated to you. I think you reached out to me and were like,
yeah, I think it was during the time that we discovered Tomar.
It was a little bit before that.
It was?
So, yeah, because
okay, all right.
In February or March 2021,
okay.
And I think that you came across Tomar in like April.
Or something like all right. That. Well, so this is when Helen and I had started working.
So Helen and you started to work together, yeah. And I think I might have bought a session actually, and then you were like, "No, let's do a trade." Like you said that you've done HMR before. I think you'd be great at this, and so I was so happy with that. I was like, heck yes, I will totally do this. And so that was a really fun process working with you and getting to learn the deep subconscious channeling and applying, as a practitioner, the HMR principles. It was really exciting to see it used in another way, in a more powerful way. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is going to really be something. I knew this was going to be something huge. And I didn't know how, but, we kept doing trades back and forth. And so, I'd say LHP was something that really turned me on to GetWisdom because I felt it and I knew it. The first DSC session you did for me was another one of those because the first, trauma that came through from another past life was me being burned at the stake as a healer and a witch. And, from my work now in this for so long, that's one of the worst traumatic things a human can experience. And so, of course, that was the first traumatic thing my being wanted to bring up. And the second memory was one of being in a mine and having a collapsed lung. So that's interesting because in physics in high school, I remember sitting there and out of the blue, I just could not breathe. And I went to the nurse. They didn't know what was wrong. They just said, relax, you're having a panic attack. And I'd never had a panic attack. My chest hurt and I had all these pains. So it just turned out I had a pneumothorax and I had a collapsed lung that was spontaneous for no reason. There was no reason for this to happen. So I connected the dots and I was like, obviously that was karmic. That happened because of that. It was related to that past life. And so that's still something in my being in this current life that needs to be healed, or else I can get it again. The doctors said that. It's like, if you get it, tall, skinny white males are really likely to get it again. And I'm like, oh, great. Oh, great. But I was like, oh, actually, that's kind of a win. Finally, some white males get
Gee, I thought it was the mining accident.
Yeah. So that struck me as like, okay, that actually meant, like, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. And then, some of the locations and the colors were significant because of dreams I was having at the time. So it all was tying in together and it all made a lot of sense. And the DSC is what really also started to shift me. The LHP totally helped me get to where I need to go, but I still had some lingering issues. Like I had some, I check out every now and then and want to smoke and not do my work or just whatever. It's linked to depression and some other LightWorker persecution stuff from past, but the DSC really helped me through that. And I noticed like my mind getting sharper and me being able to tune into different things like intuitively and get insight. So things were really kind of happening through this DSC work. So that was another reason I was like still on board. All throughout this process, I think I was still questioning it. Like there was still something in the back of my mind. Is this like really real? Like, is this placebo? This could be placebo. Like the science mind always comes back. And then I have to think back, like all the signs, all the healings, all these beautiful synchronicities. There's no way. So it was a journey of convincing, but like that's all that we all have to go on that path because the divine doesn't show itself. Mm-hmm. So, DSC was another powerful step in my journey with you and GetWisdom. And then things really started to take off. So that's when Tomar kind of came into the picture. I think Tomar came.
Just so for our viewers know, so I was, I get notifications when we have new participant members, and that and GetWisdom also has a channel on YouTube. So so I'll see when people sign up, and I was at the point right then when I kind of realized that this deep subconscious channeling trauma resolution thing is probably going to take off because I went in my work with Helen, I noticed that a lot of the new clients that we were getting were people who had already been familiar with GetWisdom and whatnot, and had been kind of waiting in the wings, hoping that Carl would open things up so that he would take on more clients because he was only working on Fridays, and he was selecting his clients kind of based on a kind of a triage approach or something that would help him with his general research and stuff. So he wasn't taking on like your average client, really. He was taking on like special cases, people. I knew he worked with a young autistic boy and stuff like this. So he was very focused on what he was looking for to kind of build on his research and stuff. And so the kind of floodgates opened up, and I was thinking, oh gosh, we're going to need more channelers. The choke point is not HMR practitioners like you and me. That's what we are. We're not channelers. Right. The choke point is going to be channelers, uncorrupted channelers. And I don't mean to be rude, but channelers are a dime a dozen. But uncorrupted channelers are quite rare. They're quite difficult to find. So Tomar signed up almost within days of each other as a participant and also on the YouTube channel. So I knew she was bird dogging this stuff. She was looking at it. And so I went and looked at her website and I just kind of like you say, you kind of an intuitive things come up and you go check, So that's what I did. So the first thing I did was I contacted Carl, I said, could you check with Creator to see if this would be a good person that I could talk to about maybe doing channeling work and stuff like that. And we got a glowing recommendation from Creator about Tomar. So I don't really, the whole vetting thing is problematic, but you got to do what you got to do,
Right.
So anyway, I contacted her and we kind of hit it off, and there was a lot of curiosity and interest on both ends, and especially on her part. And so she kind of did what you did, she took the deep dive and started looking at it, and she had kind of a fast progress into the whole GetWisdom milieu, and then that's when you and I had already started a little bit, and then so I thought, well, this might be someone that Lance would like to work with, So anyway, yeah. So I'll let you take it from there, just so people know what's the deal with Tomar. I just want to fill that in. Okay.
Right. Yeah, thanks for that introduction. That helps because I just dive right past things. Obviously, like I didn't even say I was an LHP student. Yeah,
it's okay. It's all right.
I'm too excited, and I want to talk about all these things.
I know it's a lot to cover.
Yeah. So Tomar was really, that was a beautiful synchronicity, and how all of that obviously happened. So the way that it was kind of introduced to me from my end was that you were like, yeah, we have this channelers on board, do some LHPs for her. We think that she might be really good. So I was doing LHPs for her all the time. I was like, we need to get her on board. And if this could be a future potential partner for me, because you kind of had Helen, and I was coming on board. So I was like, I needed someone else to work with because Helen was so busy.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is perfect. So I'm going to really do everything I can to get her up and running with us. And she, went through the LHP training and all that, and she was like, I think I'm ready. But I think it was you or her, I forget, recommended that she do HMR just to go through the process. The regular holographic memory resolution.
Yeah, I think that's what she wanted to do.
So I think it was her. Yeah. She was like, if I'm going to be doing this, I want to see what this is about.
Yeah.
So you were like, I don't really have time for this, and Lance can do this. Maybe we should have you and Lance do this together. And I was like, of course I'll do this. And so I did HMR for her twice, and she was, she loved it. And she said it was really powerful, and it was really fun working with her because she is so intuitive, and she was so descriptive, and she could see and feel all these things. It was an amazing process. And so we didn't even get to HMR in our first video call. We talked for over 2 hours. We just hit it off. And we could not actually get to the session.
Wow.
So it's we both knew something was there. We just had so much fun talking and relating. And then we finally got to the session. It was great. And a couple of sessions later, I think that's when y'all were like, okay, so let's get going with the DSC process. And I think that's when she was like, I think I want to work with Lance. Can I do this with Lance first and just see how it goes? And, I think y'all are okay with that. And we recorded it to make sure everything went well and got the okay. And it was all really, great. And she loved it. And so it was just after that moment, it was we knew this was going to be something, and we were bonded forever kind of way. We didn't even know how much we were going to be at that point, but yeah, we hit it off since that point.
Yeah, and then so this is something I do want to cover in this interview. Then in the midst of all that, we kind of started this process with Carl of integrating the HMR into the deep subconscious channeling in different ways to take advantage of some of the things that especially you were noticing in the process. I was I think at the time kind of in the trenches, just trying to get through the workload.
Yeah, you were busy, right?
Yeah, and but you were very, my recollection of it is that you were very engaged with me, Helen, a few other people that were involved, Tomar and Carl especially. You and Carl kind of going through this exchange, and we went through this refinement and this improvement, and it happened relatively fast. I think it was 3 or 4 months. We had gone from a kind of a just HMR with deep subconscious channeling to something that it was quite a departure from HMR in a lot of ways, and now we call it deep subconscious channeling trauma resolution, because the HMR parts of it are still there. The bones, the skeletal part, but the details had changed quite dramatically to take full advantage of the fact that we were dealing with not only intimately with the client's deep subconscious, which is not a feature of the HMR directly,
Right.
and the divine realm, which is, in the tradition, in the conventional setting, an observer, not an active participant. So it seemed like what you were coming up with was taking advantage of these two things that were kind of left on the side on the original version of it. And I tell you, I was the fly on the wall right then, and I was totally, excuse my French, fucking impressed. It was beautiful. And it happened so damn fast. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I can echo that right back and say I was really impressed with myself. Like, I still sometimes, I read through some of those channelings and all those back and forths this past week, and I was just like, how did I come up with that? Like, what? How? So, yeah, to kind of like backtrack, I remember when I first started to do this with you, I immediately knew, I was like, ooh, just like the LHP, we make all these improvements. We can make this better. This can be so much better. I already know based on like just taking HMR. I was fresh out of HMR,
right?
And I was like, knowing there's deep subconscious involved and how powerful it can be. It's like we can, and the divine is in running the show. Like this can be so much more powerful. But I was like, I'm gonna let it go. Like this was like April, and so we didn't really start the refinement process. I think until like September, October, or something like that, and so. Yeah, I was really fortunate to be, working with Tomar a lot at this point, and with her and her channeling, she was also learning to all these different things about channeling, how to channel, and so we were both in the perfect spot to open up both of our gifts and our desires. So I was like, can you channel on this and see if there is room for improvement? Like before I bug Carl and Denny and the team, I know they're so busy. And, we got a yes. And so I was like, ooh, okay, floodgates opening.
Yeah.
So,
and it was so cool because Carl stepped up too. Because sometimes Carl can't entertain, these, like a Lance email is usually like three pages. I mean, that's a typical Lance email. It's like, if you print it out, it's going to be 3 pages. So get ready.
It's a whole proposal. I got all my references. I got, yeah.
It's like, yeah. But Carl was, he was in the, he just got right into it. I mean, I see some of this happen sometimes, and there's like weeks delay, just because it's just the mechanics of the situation. But that didn't seem to be happening here. It was like bang, 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 back and forth, bang, 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 and then we were getting these new iterations of the scripts that we were using for that thing, and then 2 weeks later we have a new one. It was better than the old one, and it was amazing. At the time, it was kind of aggravating, but. When it was all said and done, it was like we really ended up with something that was demonstrably better. Right. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that being such a stimulating and fun process for me. Like when I say like I've never really reached a flow state until I was doing healing with clients and when I was working on this DSC stuff. Like that was so, I'm vibrating right now. Like it was so amazing to get to be able to do that. And I know I was being guided. Like there was tons of inspiration coming in from the divine. It wasn't all me, but I remember like earlier when I said I went through the dark night of the soul, I was like, I went through all of this like research background, all this climate change science and computer programming, all this stuff. Like, what the hell am I going to do? Like that was such a waste of time. Like I was so upset at myself, but going through this process, I realized I'm actually utilizing these skills. Like this computer programming is how I kind of envisioned the DSC actually. I saw that there was like nested loops inside of the DSC and, like subroutines, and you could make different calls. And so I was kind of structuring it in my mind like a computer program. And I was like, we need to get rid of that. That's redundant. Oh, we can add this and that'll make it more powerful. Oh, like that's a loop. So we should just make it all one call. I was doing all this stuff and relating all this to Carl, and it was just so much fun. And yeah, I'm so grateful that Carl was entertaining all of my crazy ideas, because some of them were a little far out there, and we were surprised to see that some of these things could happen, because that is the power of the deep subconscious and the divine. Yeah. And I remember a quote from one of the channelings, like we went from having I was like, what was the effectiveness improvement? And, there's no quantification here and we can't ever put a measurement on anything. But Divine said 10 to 100 times more effective than what we were doing before.
Yeah, I believe
this
it.
process.
I believe it. Yeah.
And it shows. It totally shows.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Helen and I have done almost 600 sessions now.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And we're fortunate because quite a few of these clients come back, and we get some feedback too. So not too long ago, we got a very nice testimonial from a fellow who had some pretty serious intractable health problems that he was dealing with in a very intelligent way for over 20 years, and they're both gone now. And he was testing to see, like, is it really gone? Like the same kind of things you were going, is this placebo? Da 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 da. And so I sent that out to everyone just so we could see, that there was, there was some pretty compelling anecdotal information about what was happening with this deep subconscious channeling, and the fact that we're reframing significant traumas from past lives, and it's kind of like peeling the proverbial onion and really cleaning up a backlog of unhealed trauma that causes physical health problems, And in this case, it was depression and chronic fatigue syndrome that plaguing this fellow for 20 years. And with, temporary improvement, then retreat, temporary improvement, retreat. And now, he's had this period of time where he's actually been doing the DSCs kind of on a regular basis. He'll get like 2 or 3 sessions every month, and so anyway, it was.
I mean, what you said there is an important. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So now we're at the place now where we've done enough sessions, and we've got enough feedback so that we can see that what we were speculating about in terms of efficacy is really true, and it's
right.
And I think we can convincingly demonstrate to other people now that we've done that. From it's not a scientific research thing. We didn't have a control client and all that kind of stuff, but the collection of what has happened now is pretty compelling, pretty convincing that we're definitely barking up the right tree here.
Right. And what you just described is kind of the paradigm that we're in. It's like you can do so many things in this physical current life to try to help yourself and get better, but if you're not focusing on that karma from the past lives, it will come back around. So you said this guy was feeling better, and then he'd go back, and then he'd feel better, and then he'd go back. It's karma coming back around from those past lives, and if you're not targeting that karma, it's going to keep coming back around.
Yeah.
So that's what's so powerful about this, is it totally reframes that, so it's not like energetically connected to you in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's so impressive. And I haven't done 600 sessions, but I think I'm in triple digits now.
Yeah.
And I've seen a plethora of amazing changes in people just from the deep subconscious. And we combine it with the LHP, so that's what's also making this more powerful. It's helping give that extra oomph that is needed. So the combination of these two tools is so transformative, and it's just obviously changed my life and put me on a whole new path. And it's doing the same for other people, and I can't wait till this keeps spreading and blowing up.
Yeah. So another thing that happened kind of recently was that you started to talk about what you've learned with other people close to you.
In what way?
Well, okay. Well, for a lot of the people who've encountered GetWisdom and learned all this stuff, it's an epiphany. It's wonderful. Not only do they learn about the actual problems facing humanity, but they learn about what to do about it, and then they have no one to talk to about it.
Yes, right.
And so you told me not too long ago that might be changing for you a little bit.
Yeah, well, there's many. Yeah, so I'm making more of an effort now to be a lot more vocal and to talk about these things. And I've been off of social media for so long, and I'm starting to come back online. But yeah, this is kind of it can be isolating on this path. Like it's so far out there from mainstream that you do feel alone a lot, and it's really difficult sometimes. And so a lot of time when this would happen, I would just like, I have faith. I just have to put my faith in God. Like I'm doing the right thing. I'm going the right path. I'm guided. I'll find the connections that I need to. And that's kind of started to open up. Like I'm starting to attract these people in my life that are on that verge of something's not right here. And you can like plant that seed and really get into people. And I'm realizing, you know, there's it's like an art. Like it's the way that you talk to people. You really have to gauge where they are in their life and where they are in their belief system. And I've been able to like weasel my way into people from like a Christian perspective or from a science perspective or from a new age perspective. So there's many ways you can go about it. Everyone has their own path. And I think that's what I'm starting to get really good at, is seeing how I can get into people and then just be a place for just respect and allowing people to share their ideas and what they believe in and give my perspective. And usually when I come back with some kind of divine truth, it's like they pause. They're like, oh, it makes them question. So that's like the divine intuitive nudge that's like tapping you. Think about that. And so I try to go with some, you know, powerful statements like that every now and then when I can, and I think of them, that really make people question. So yeah, I'm starting to do more outreach. I don't know if that's what you were kind of touching on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the stories I hear a lot, and I'm fortunate because I'm not really, I'm in that boat like most people, but in some ways I'm not. So, like for instance, I can talk about all this stuff to my wife. And she's been supportive from day one and kind of on board. She's also an LHP practitioner, you know, and that's, you know, and I've know all these people come find Get Wisdom. It's a very rare thing for your significant other to be in the same wheelhouse like that. Now her approach to it is very different than mine, but I'm not walking on thin ice. You know, if I start to talk about ETs or, you know, dark spirits or, you know, all this other stuff that's considered, you know, reptilian replacements and all this stuff that just seems so outlandish and...
Wait, what's that?
That's perfect. Yeah, wait, what's that? So...
Yeah, see, that's what you cannot... Yeah, you can't lead in with that. That's for sure.
So,
yeah.
So, but I'm very empathetic to the folks who just, you know, they find Get Wisdom and they go, oh, guess what? I can't talk to my husband about this at all. And there's people in the inner circle of Get Wisdom, you know, people, volunteers, long-time volunteers, owners, etc. And they're in that situation where they don't really have a supportive spouse. And it's kind of a horrific thing, but it's normal. That's the normal thing. I'm in the abnormal place. So I'm very, and we brought this up with the other interviews that I've done, like this one, where I talk about this conundrum for people. It's like, okay, well, they're all excited about Get Wisdom now. It's really helped them in their lives, And some of them have done LHPs for their family members and stuff and seen improvement and stuff, and they can't even talk to their family members about the fact they've been doing this high-level prayer request for them, and that's why they don't have cancer anymore or something, you know. And, yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, so that's a recent, you know, development in my life is, like, I've been in the closet multiple times. And... So I always say, like, this is my second coming out where most people don't know what I'm doing. I've been totally offline for 2 years and not even my family. And so literally just recently, I did come clean to them and I told them what I'm kind of doing and what I believe in and what's really going on. You know, I didn't explain all of it, but I think the only way that we're actually able to have somewhat of a conversation and be somewhat civil is that these LHPs have been going on for a year and a half now for my family. Like, so many working the magic over time. Otherwise, it would just be a lot of defensive, like our family kind of fights and bickers. We used to, not so much anymore. So it's really wonderful being able to share that with the family and still be accepted, but not totally, you know, they're not on board yet.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
But it's a path. It's a journey for everybody, and maybe they never will be, and that's okay. But I feel that, you know, being here, I need to just stand up and finally tell my story, be strong, be bold, and really speak the truth, or else how is this going to get out there? How are we going to change? How are we going to shift?
Right.
And so I'm really leading into that finally. And, I would say Tomar is a big part of that. Tomar has given me tons of confidence with speaking publicly. And, we have our stuff now. I guess won't really get into that much, but, we have our own.
We got like 20 minutes. You have your own website. You and Tomar's got her own website, and you have one together, right?
Yeah, so we each have our own separate websites for our own services and healings, and I'm starting a blogging project to really chronicle my path with my different awakenings and different corroborations through GetWisdom and other sources from different perspectives. Like I said, there's like the science perspective, there's the Christian perspective, there's all these perspectives you can come in, and I want to outline like all of that for people as a gateway. And some other things. But yeah, so we also now have a business and a website together where it's called Divine Partnership, divinepartnership.net. And our whole goal, and we just had a powerful moment the other day. We were like, just goofing off how like it's still crazy that we can just be together and we have 7-hour meetings and we just don't feel like any time went by. Like, it's just, we're in this whole different like divine state of collaboration and union that is so amazing. And that's why we titled this Divine Partnership. So much has come from our partnership that we could not do ourselves. We are like the perfect pairing for what we're trying to accomplish with our different skills. And so now we're really vocal about putting out empowered prayer. We, to reach the quorum, to really make this happen, GetWisdom people will know we need a quorum. And the way that I believe this is going to happen is most people taking up empowered prayer and doing like empowered prayer. LHP is of course helping, and that's going to be so pivotal, and that's the reason why this world is shifting. But empowered prayer is how we're going to get more people on board, and it's an easier way to kind of like get people into the shallow end of the pool before they get all the way and they dive.
Yeah.
And we've had really good feedback with the space that we've created to come together and do prayer together and really help one another out. And we've had like live healings on the call, beautiful things happening. It's really wonderful. And it's a space that I think is needed in this world with so much isolation and not having a place to come together in true divine connection to make things happen. Yeah. And so we're just over the moon with how well this is going and how much we want to do. We have so many ideas. It's so fun doing this. So we really do feel like we'll make an impact, hopefully in the future. But it's all thanks to GetWisdom. Like we're teaching and using the tools from GetWisdom, and that is why this is so powerful. And also, the divine is on our side through the LHP and everything because of the necessity for this to happen. So we know it's guided and inspired. So it's just a wonderful thing to be a part of, and I'm so grateful for her. I can't believe it. It's the most amazing relationship, partnership I've ever had in my life, and I don't know, we're like best friends, and I never thought I'd say that about like an older woman. Like our age differences are okay. Sorry, she's actually like 32. Shh, don't but I just never thought that would be the case. Like we're best friends, and we're also business partners, and we're also healers, and it's just the most amazing thing. Yeah. So,
have you ever looked into past life? Like you guys did something together before?
Yeah, so we kind of want to save some of that information because I think that we're gonna do an interview together at some point with you, right?
So yeah.
We have some exciting details that we can probably share in the future. But yeah. I guess spoiler alert is yes.
Good.
We have been involved.
I'm glad I asked them. I'm glad you didn't answer.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's also why. Yeah, the karma can be really good. So if you're doing really good things in past lives with people for a divine cause and a divine nature, you can find each other again, and things can be set up again to pick up where you left off. And I'm already getting into like what we were going to share, but it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Alan Kardec story for Carl, and it's so cool because if you look at the like the Spiritist book. I'm looking around here for you. It's here somewhere, but I can't grab it. But anyway, if you look at the format of the Spiritist book that Alan Kardec wrote, put together, and you go to the Divine Wisdom database. Boy, they look similar. It's all Q&A format. It's like,
Yeah, that's remarkable, and it happened that way for a reason. It's because it's a similar. Reincarnation.
And so it's true. He picked up where he left off. He grabbed some more tools. He had another incarnation. Now he doesn't have to rely on mediums that are elsewhere or separate from him. Now he's the medium, and able to get a lot more done. And then it always, the problem is that it's not a fairy tale. It's a story of ups and downs and mixed. A lot of evil mixed in with the good, a lot of good mixed in with the evil, and there's no really clean stories. They're all there's stuff that happened that for a lot of us we're better off not even knowing about. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's generally the rule, is that most of this past life stuff is better left in the past, and we find that we've encountered this quite a bit with the higher self channeling. And requests like, can you search out my Akashic records so I can know about what I did in the past and everything? It's like, well, when I first met Carl, when he was doing LHPs, he would include some details about what he saw, because he uses the feedback version of the LHP. So he's getting psychic impressions, he's getting symbolic representations of trauma, he's getting details about past lives and private matters about his clients. And he was very judicious about it, but over time, from the time I met him until probably middle of 2018 or so, he just stopped doing it. He didn't put anything in there. He used to actually put in all the reports that he would send back, like how many entity attachments, like dark spirits, hybrid, and he would count those out. And now we don't even do that. And the reason is because a lot of times we will grab onto that, and it becomes like part of our identity. We already are attached to it. Well, has it been healed? Well, probably a lot of it has been healed. But is it completely healed? Well, maybe not. So for some of the clients, they'll reattach and they'll go back into old karmic cycles that didn't really have anything to do with the healing. So that was why the recommendation now is not to do that. And with the higher self channeling, deep subconscious channeling, trauma resolution, that information is actually conveyed. But I always explain it as well, in this case, it's different. There's two reasons. One is that if a client's going to spend that kind of money for healing, they need some kind of representation of what was done. So that's why we give them the recording. And yes, they get to listen to a rehash of that trauma. But the fact is that we've reframed it. And we've also done the belief work to help replace those beliefs that came about as a result of a very negative experience. So that's kind of like the mitigating factor that makes this okay in this sense. Right. It's not perfect, but welcome.
Yeah,
to
it's
Earth.
like going through this work and doing dozens of sessions for myself and seeing all of my past lives. Like, every single one is just so horrible. Like, there's really no reason to just fill your mind up with all of the atrocity that's happened to your being. So it's like, at this point, I really just kind of skip over that. It's not really important. Of course, it's really exciting, and it's really great to find out really your past life.
Yeah.
It's a really exciting topic that people want to know about. So there's a market for it, but when it comes to healing, it's not necessary.
Right.
So it can actually be worse. Like, you can re-traumatize people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really the case most of the time, because we're reframing them, like you said, and doing the belief work, so it should be okay. But yeah, the past lives aren't necessary to really.
Yeah, it's good for people just to be aware of there is a downside to all this, and then we find this, with the psychics and stuff. And plus, if you're going to be telling one of your clients about their past lives and stuff, and something goes haywire, something goes wrong, you as the practitioner have a karmic. There's a karmic repercussions for you in that situation too. So you have to be very careful. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there because, even now, even with people still familiar with GetWisdom and whatnot, there is this great perceived need that their situation would be vastly improved if they knew about their past, about past karmic history. And I myself was even embroiled in this in the early days. I came into this very naive. I mean, you can go back and watch the videos and stuff. You can see. Denny was trying, but he didn't know shit, and
So we all didn't.
yeah. So, but I found out that I was a Secret Service agent, and that I got killed because of something I was trying to do. And oh wow, that's a really that's a pulp novel material. That's like you could make a movie on that or whatever. And so I was like,
it can stroke your ego sometimes too, and then you go,
So I was doing all this research, like who was this guy? I was looking at pictures and buying all these books and shit, and finally just kind of like, well, is it okay? So what would happen if you found out that who this guy was and everything?
Yeah, what are you really going to gain from that?
Yeah.
Like, how is that going to really help your life in this moment?
Yeah.
It really won't.
Yeah. So it was a good lesson for me because I went down that rabbit hole, and then it kind of dawned on me, like, well, what are you doing here? So it helped. It did help.
Yeah.
But it is very compelling. I understand.
It's so
that.
compelling. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember at the very beginning. I mean, so I have to do it. I always consider it from the client's perspective too. I always want to put myself in their shoes. And for me, just like I said, that LHP totally felt it, changed my life. DSC totally resonated with me based on those scenes and the colors because of like dreams and other experiences in my life. So hearing about me having that collapsed lung actually confirmed this for me rather than something negative. And so there is the possibility that these really do help you, but to keep learning about all of your past lives over and over and over, it's not really necessary. I think a couple key ones here and there to tune you into the reasoning behind your issues, the root causes, can be helpful. Knowledge is power in some ways, but the healing is being done whether you know it or not, the past life.
Right.
So it's more of like an ego stroke than anything truly healing.
Yeah.
And over time, you kind of just get over that.
Yeah. Thankfully, the LHP is a great foundation because it's working in all the other aspects of necessary healing that maybe isn't directly addressed through the DSCTR work. So it's I'm not sure how confident I would feel doing this kind of work if it wasn't for the LHP, having that as a kind of underpinning, a foundation.
Right. I think it's key, right, for doing all of this work from all the parallel timelines and all the different calls that it has, all the really powerful healing calls that it has. It really is important to have that with the DSC.
Yeah. So, so looking forward, like where you're at right now, what kind of things do you think might be coming up for you? Like what are you working on now? What do you hope to produce as a result of the work you're doing now, kind of thing?
Yeah, loaded question. So much I want to do and so much that's on the future horizon. I just don't have time. I'm praying for that time. Carl needs to teach us all how to skip time. Like I still cannot do it. I need to learn how to jump timelines. But anyways, one of my biggest things that I kind of see myself doing, besides this future partnership with Tomar, really opening up more empowered prayer to people, spreading this amazing prayer tool to help change your life. It's literally just prayer that heals. And so that's a big push for me. A bit of my personal life, I live in an intentional community in Texas, and we have our own farm, and we used to have some animals, had some complications with weather and stuff, and build sustainable structures and all this stuff. But our end goal is to have like a wellness center and to really put forth these alternative methods of healing because society and Western medical really isn't providing it for people.
Right.
So we have like a country escape where we want people to come, and I offer my services here, but we really want to build out a full like scale wellness treatment center, eating our organic produce and then having some services through me and having retreats like yoga and all this stuff, all in one kind of, location. I think it'd be really wonderful. And so that's a really, it's a future project, but it's on the mind. And then me personally, like I really want to get more involved in outreach. And so, especially for my generation, I think a lot of my generation is so disconnected, and the secular movement has totally taken over and technology has taken over that everyone is just like this all day long. And they're not really truly connecting with themselves or nature or anyone around them. It's all through this, false media device. So I really want to make a big push for my generation to show them that God really is here and can change your life. And, especially also for my demographic. So being LGBTQ, I think that's a major demographic that could use some help. And I'm really passionate about bringing this message to that group as well. So I'm going to be doing some outreach projects for that. Other things too. But I'm also I'm kind of at this point where I'm surrendering to my higher self. My higher self has been guiding me in so many things that I'm doing. And I know what I'm doing I'm doing it at the right time, and it's the right moment and the right path forward. So all these things I want to do, but they'll come at the right time. And healing, it's just like healing. Healing work is still critical to my life, and I love helping people and teaching people. So eventually I'll become an LHP teacher, and maybe I could see myself teaching out of the center here at some point live, because we don't have those live classes anymore. So there's the many options, but lots of good things on the horizon. And it's all because of GetWisdom and divine partnership. Like, it really has changed everything. And I have to mention too that part of my awakening was not just through GetWisdom, but like mushrooms. So I know you have many talks and interviews and stuff on that. I just have to mention that, like, without going into a mushroom experience when I was a scientist, that's the first time that I ever met God and saw everything connected. And that's when I truly woke up. But GetWisdom, it wasn't until GetWisdom when I actually was like, I understood and could put something into practice and actually change my life based on the principles and the teachings. The mushroom experience was awakening. It actually got really dark too. Like, I understood that was a beautiful experience to happen, because I understood I had spirit attachments at that point that totally commandeered that experience. It got so dark. I felt like I was in endless death, suffocating for the rest of my life. And that was pulling on the karmic strings of my suffocation from my collapsed lung. So, like, everything is connected. And so it's like, now I do mushrooms every now and then, but with divine partnership and protection. And that experience is so different from how it was before without divine partnership and protection. So I forgot that point. It's like,
I personally would like to explore that some more. I've actually got a client who sends me his clients, because he does the BUFO, the 5-MeO DMT guided things, and so from time to time he'll hook me up, and we'll do sessions for his clients and stuff. But kind of, in fact, I haven't heard from him for a while. I wish I'm kind of thinking I want to hook up with him again, because that can make a huge difference for people. Because it's powerful medicine. You have to be careful. I mean, my work with that didn't really start as work. It was more like recreation, and for me it was great. I loved it. But I had a lot of friends that didn't turn out that way, and there was some really sad, unfortunate stories as a result of getting too crazy with psychedelics. So, but yeah, there's huge potential there. I think it's probably something that should be explored. But it's kind of like right now we got bigger fish to fry. That's the way I feel. Like, we really do need to get this quorum. We need to get more people doing the LHP, more people interested in prayer, more people learning about what's actually going on and why, and who the perpetrators are and what they're up to, and so that's kind of like that's my focus, so like, right now. The knowledge has given me peace. Like, I used to have so much animosity towards humanity, and the healing, the LHP, all these tools that we use can bring you so much in your life. But if you still don't understand that it's not humanity to blame, like, there is something else going on here. When you understand that and you know that, it totally shifts your perspective, and you actually have peace within you. Even though all this crazy shit is going on in the world, it brings me peace and solace knowing it's not our fault and we can do something about this. Right. We have the tools
we have the answer, we have the solution, we can do this.
Yeah.
So it's really important to know, but also to do. So,
yeah, to do. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I'm in major doing mode. That's all I do. Go, go, go.
All right. Okay. Well, this has been a wonderful interview, and I'm really glad that we had to wait a little bit. It was worth the wait, and I'm very excited to put this out on my channel and introduce you to all of the people who've been checking these videos out. And it's like, well, what about this Get Wisdom thing? Because it is, for a lot of people, it's repulsive. They just like, nope, these people are crazy. We get the cult. The cult thing comes in, and all the stuff that telling the truth is dangerous, and it's always been that way on Earth. And but there's a silver lining on this cloud, and there are no real problems. You'll come to find out. But the divine human experiment is worth the fight, and the outcome of a successful success is going to be dramatic. It's going to be wonderful, and it's every once in a while, some of us will get some kind of inkling of what that might be like, and it's worth the effort. It's worth the lifetimes of effort. It turns out. Yeah.
I'm hopeful too, because I believe I'm here to also help this transition to healing, to ascension, and it will happen in my lifetime. So if current estimates are accurate, it will be I'm age 111 when this happens. And so another reason 111, everything is so divine and connected. So we'll see if that actually happens. But I'm very hopeful for the future.
Right.
We can do this, and I hope more people jump on board who watch this. And just like we said, if you want to talk about things, hit one of us up. We will always be happy to talk about these things, and guide you. That's what I'm here for now. I believe. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Lance, so much for doing this.
Thank
I really
you, Denny.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much as well.
All right. And thanks
it so much. It's been fun.
All right. That's great. Okay. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll be back. Actually, maybe the next interview I do will be with Lance and Tomar, and we'll learn some more about what's going on. There's we've kind of just scratched the scratcher. There's a lot more to talk about, but I think this is a good introduction. So thanks so much. Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.